Hello and welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. On today's show, Dina Deleasa-Gonsar, a New Jersey native and author of the new cookbook At the Kitchen Sink, is here to talk about the heart and inspiration behind her latest release. But first, James Fiorentino is a nationally celebrated watercolor artist whose new book, The Art of Baseball, captures the spirit of America's pastime through stunning, hand-picked paintings and personal stories of legendary players. James, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, you are one of my favorite people I have met in sports. Like me, you're such a huge fan, and you give back in epic ways with your talent, which is encompassed in this gorgeous, stunning book. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been many years. You know, it's really over 30 years probably of painting and being around all these players. And I think, you know, for me, is like the stories that have come from meeting all these guys and being able to share that. Most people don't realize, you know, going back to DiMaggio and Mantle and Williams. So I think the book sort of helps celebrate all that.
It really does. Before we dive into the book, though, I want people to know about your talent and how you got started doing watercolor paintings of your favorite sports stars.
Yeah, you know, it was, you know, playing sports my whole life from when I was a kid. Obviously painting. Painting certainly came first. I was drawing and painting everything I loved. I mean, from 5 and 6 years old and 7 years old. And I think at an early age, you know, my parents, especially my mom, you know, saw that talent in those younger years and encouraged me to take art lessons when I was around 8 years old. And I was painting in every medium, and I was almost like essentially today drawing everything I loved. And of course, back then it was collecting and baseball cards and sports. But taking lessons at 8 years old was a big thing for me. I was studying with older people. Both painters I had from probably around 8 to 14, they're both watercolor artists. So I honestly feel like that's probably what influenced me and gave me the passion for watercolor. But essentially I was really creating baseball paintings and other forms of sports really for my own collection and to eventually get them autographed by players, you know, which would happen around 14 years old. So it really developed, you know, very young.
How did you get your work, though, into the hands of everyone?
Yeah, I was being asked that recently. It was really, and back then it was writing letters, really. There was obviously no internet.
No.
It was phone calls and letters. So I remember writing a letter probably around 13, 14 years old to the National Baseball Hall of Fame, showing them my work. And I remember to this day, I was playing American Legion ball. It was my freshman year in high school, and got a phone call from them saying, we'd love to display your Reggie Jackson painting, you know, for Reggie's induction. I was 15 years old. You know, the year prior to that, the first player I'd ever met to sign a painting was Joe DiMaggio, and I went to a card show in New Jersey. And that kicked it off because I remember people saying he wasn't going to sign it, he was kind of tough to deal with, and he loved it, signed it. So I knew that there was something there and was doing a lot of local New Jersey art shows, but I think the Baseball Hall of Fame and, you know, writing that letter and having that happen started getting media attention for me. And growing up in New Jersey, having like attention from, you know, whether it was the Star Ledger or, you know, New York media like NBC as a kid, helped sort of kick everything off for me.
By the way, I love that you went big. I mean, you weren't like a local team.
Right.
I mean, you went right to the Hall of Fame. And the fact
Yeah.
that you got their attention, it was going to be easy after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I would tell anyone, right, like if you have a dream or you want to do something, why not try that, right? Why not go after that? Certainly, I didn't think it was going to be that quick. And again, just right place at the right time. I do say to people, I do think growing up in Central New Jersey was a big deal for it.
Yeah.
You know, people who collect, people who can afford and understand that in art and sports. This is also when the Yankees are starting to do incredibly well. You're close to New York City for media. So, and the art scene. So it was really a good place. And I think, you know, the next big thing after the Hall of Fame was the Ted Williams Museum. And that just happened to be starting up. And they saw my work also at like a baseball card show. And I didn't think that they'd ask me to do anything. And they said, hey, why don't you paint this 20 greatest hitters that Ted Williams is choosing? And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I painted that the summer of my junior year in high school. And, you know, went down to meet Ted Williams. I was only 17 years old. And again, while all this is happening, I'm playing baseball, football, basketball, all these different sports at Middlesex High School. And came back, which I love telling the story, with my parents in February, which was I think around 95. And the table next to me was Mantle, Mays, Aaron, Ted Williams. I was like making friendships with a lot of these players. Wow. Mickey Mantle, my mom who loved Mickey Mantle, and Maris growing up, she had come over and brought Mickey Mantle over to me to sign the painting. So like all these amazing things were happening at such a young age. And then I think back to 15 years old and around that Hall of Fame time, and it was Yogi and thinking about my Yogi show. But Yogi, when I saw him at a show, invited me to his home at 15 to sign all these prints that I had done of him, which was incredibly generous. And that's where I would start my friendship with Yogi. But that was all in that same time period, like 14, 15, 16, 17. And so being in this area again with all of that really is what helped me start my career in a big way.
And this is before, like you said, social media, where just one letter changed the course of your history. And now here you are today with this beautiful book, and the Yogi Berra Museum is still playing a big role in your life.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have my work in there many times over the years. It's an incredible museum. Yogi was the best. He was such a good person and obviously one of the greatest players of all time. And yeah, so to have a couple solo shows, had Yogi at one of my openings once. So, you know, kind of fast forwarding all these years later to also, you know, be doing a lot with the Hall of Fame this year, and then the book and Yogi's Museum, you know, having the event there. So it's wonderful. I feel really blessed and lucky to have people who have been following me since I was like 15, and then just people now finding my story for the first time, which I also think that's probably why the book's important. And even people who knew me who are looking through it go, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize you did all that. You know, my work is, you know, in football and basketball and hockey and all different sports, but baseball probably being the biggest, you know, made sense to do this one.
So are these athletes reaching out to you to get things commissioned now?
They do, and I've had that happen probably over the last 20, 25 years. Yeah, I've had players call me at my home and when I was in college, and players will get my paintings as awards, they'll get them as gifts, they'll get them for their foundation events. You know, I paint for Latino sports where we give out the MVP awards and all these different awards to current Latino ball players. So it's been the biggest and the best over the last 20 years. So honestly, at this point, there's probably hundreds of players in all different sports who have paintings of mine. So
what is your process? For example, when Aaron Judge calls you, paint this, I don't know if he really did, but I'm just using him as an example since he's on your cover. How long does it take for you to think it out in your mind to canvas, final product?
Yeah, so my work's all drawn in pencil and all painted in watercolor, and I'll use like images and reference material and piece everything together, sort of. It's a fast medium, it's a tough medium. So, you know, it's just like anything else. I have this formula of what paper I use, what paint, what paintbrush, and it's a fast medium because it dries obviously quickly. I joke around, it's very similar to what kids use when you're in elementary school and you see watercolor paints. So when people see my studio and they see the paints, whether it's in cake form or tube form, they laugh because it is very similar. It's just obviously a higher end version. But that's just many, many years of developing my own style. It's very photorealistic. That's just how my brain is wired in that way of making every detailed. But that's also very cool for sports, especially baseball. I think being a baseball player myself and playing in college and all those kind of things lends itself probably to some of this. But I think the more detail I can see, you know, that really makes for the best pieces.
Where did you play in college?
So I played at Drew University. And that was a crazy story too, because I was always a good athlete. Most people probably knew me more for my sports than even my art at times. But I then played 4 years of Drew baseball as a shortstop while keeping the art going, you know, at school.
That is just such a remarkable story. And again, before we dive into the book, I think it's also very important for our audience to know you've parlayed your art, your connections into giving back in so many epic ways. You sit on the board of the Ed Lucas Foundation, where you and I really got to know each other, and just so many initiatives and causes you're a part of as well.
You know, honestly, that's been something that's been in me my whole life. Certainly my parents have helped in that, and my mom. I love giving back. I feel really blessed that I can wake up every day, go downstairs and paint for a living, right? And I've met amazing people through it. Again, over 30 years, paid my way through college doing it. being on boards like the Ed Lucas Foundation, yeah, it's really cool. You're around all these players and stuff, but you're really doing amazing things. Like, you're really touching people's lives. Even for me personally, meeting other artists, giving back. Probably one of my worst things is that I have a hard time saying no, because I want to help out everyone. And even in my work that's not just baseball, whether it's my wildlife, landscapes, portraits, being on boards that deal with nature and wildlife, which is a big passion of mine, I just love helping people. It makes me feel good. And so that's just, yeah, it's a really nice thing to be able to do.
It is. So the book, tell us what it includes.
John Mallory helped write the book, and it was basically writing stories about some of the paintings and me growing up. So in the beginning, it's essentially all the things we had talked about, and shows paintings and images when I first started, very young, probably like 8, 9 years old or younger till now. And it goes through in chronological order some of the player paintings and just cool stories from Pepper Davis and the New York Mets and the New York Yankees and being around Torrey and all these guys during the World Series, to Ripken, to current covers I've done, all the trading cards I've done over the years, which people collect. I've always had a fascination with history. So I love the players I'd never seen. So I was always painting them since I was a kid. And really being able to be around those guys at 14, 15, those guys who were playing in the 30s and the 40s, that was really exciting to me. And that to me is, I'll never get that back. Still exciting to see guys like Anthony Volpe, young kids play.
Oh, yeah.
Is
he in the book, Anthony?
I don't think he is. Yeah, I didn't get to paint him yet, which is someone I really, want to do.
Oh, it's a Jersey collab. It has to happen.
So I think it's just, again, years and years of different paintings, but cool stories behind them. Anybody can paint these players. I had the opportunity to be around them, paint them during that time, do paintings for them. And so it's a fun book if you love sports, baseball, art, kind of everything.
The foreword was by Don Mattingly. I mean, you don't get bigger than that for a Yankee fan.
Yes, that is definitely cool. For me, growing up, he was my guy. He was my Jeter, mid-'80s, going to Yankee games. Mattingly was everything. You're collecting Mattingly cards. So honestly, to have him be a friend, it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing to me. So I had done a project with Mattingly Charities last year, and so it was good timing. And we were planning the book, and I said, hey, maybe he would want to write the foreword to the book, and he did. So yeah, a huge fan of him, obviously when he was playing, and then off the field, he's an amazing person. And like Mattingly Charities does a lot. So that's a cool thing too. Like, you develop relationships with these guys, and some of them are doing amazing, amazing things, Mattingly being one of them. But yes, that kind of makes the book very cool.
It does. You mentioned Derek Jeter. That's my ultimate. Is he in the book?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of paintings on Derek over the years. I've done some stuff for his foundation. And again, like having that relationship with Joe Torre and being introduced to Derek back then. But I was lucky enough to be at like all those World Series games, a lot of them like in 96 and the 2000s, 99. So I've been around Derek a bunch of times over the years. Another amazing person, does a lot of wonderful things. So
I wish we were friends then. I would have just loved to have been your assistant back then.
Yeah.
Because those 90s teams, and we talked about that at Lucas Foundation, because those guys come back every year. There's just nothing better. Nothing will be better than those years.
No, it was like it's very dreamlike for me too, because my dream was to play baseball and be the shortstop like Derek Jeter. So to be on the field for batting practice all those years, and like sit in the dugout sometimes with Joe, or a couple times in his office. But like, I did this painting one time in this old room that was called the Gehrig Room, where Lou Gehrig went to, which is in the book. So like, really like surreal moments of thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like I've seen these guys play up close. Now some of these guys are Hall of Famers, and being on the field at those times. Also, the old field had this magic.
The fact that they knocked it down still breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the Coliseum, right, of the United States.
And they talk about, which was true, I remember being at some of the World Series game where like you were shaking.
Yeah.
And people were going nuts. So I feel like really lucky to be a part of all that. That's what I mean. I was painting at that time while the Yankees were just unbelievable. So it was good timing for sure.
And New York Giants are featured in this as well. So you got to paint them during those improbable Super Bowl runs as well.
Yeah, there's just a lot of, gosh, like every, like all those types of moments, being around a lot of those guys. And that's why, like, again, just being a part of that at those times, I was very lucky.
Where can we purchase a copy of the book?
Yeah, so right now I just have it on jamesfiorentino.com. We're going to have it in different places to buy, probably like your Amazons and stuff, but for now, it just really just came out. So I think there'll be a lot of different events throughout the state of New Jersey, and I kind of feel like the book will be almost like a few years of me kind of doing tours and events with it, just based on my schedule, and also wanting to meet a lot of people who will enjoy it, so.
Congratulations on
Thank you.
all of your success. I mean, you're living out every kid's dream, right? To just
Yeah.
be painting all day. It's awesome.
I appreciate it.
And especially who you're painting. It's incredible. One more time, give your website.
It's jamesfiorentino.com, and then you can follow me on all the different social media pages. But yeah, I always look forward to people reaching out and meeting people at all the events. So
Awesome. James, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
by, and
I appreciate it.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Food brings people together. On Cooking with Copel, we combine culinary creativity with good conversation. This spring, we've invited all the candidates for governor to come into the Montclair kitchen, teach me to cook their favorite dish, and give the people of New Jersey a chance to get to know the individuals who would lead our state. It's going to be a fun and exciting way to get really involved in the democratic process. Can't wait to see you there.
Dina Deleasa-Gonsar, a proud New Jersey native and author of the newly released cookbook At the Kitchen Sink, joins us to share the heart behind her recipes and how this deeply personal project came to life. Welcome, Dina.
Thank you, Lisa. It's so nice to be here with you again. I feel like I'm coming home.
You are, kind of, yeah, in a way. If you watch our streaming channel on New Jersey, you would see Dina a lot. But right now, it's all about your book, which I know was a huge labor of love for you, and it's finally here. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so many emotions at once. Some people are like, how do you feel?
How do you feel?
I feel every which way. You feel a lot of anxiety, like it's a pressure cooker, like leading up to the day, because there's all these expectations behind the scenes. But then when you get there, I think the overarching theme is just being grateful that you had this opportunity. It's not something that everybody gets to do. So I'm super cognizant of that, and just the fact that the words in the book, they're so special, and that I might be able to meet someone right where they're at in a moment that they need it, where I can't physically be there. So to have that kind of thought or responsibility is just, I don't know, that's amazing to me.
It is. Well, writing a book is no small feat. And I mean, cooking is not my forte. It's certainly, as we learned during a recent pasta making expedition that we went on. But I mean, these are all of your recipes. But as I mentioned in the intro, it's based on your personal story.
Yes.
It's not just a normal cookbook.
No, it's not. And you know, halfway through the editing process, I had finished. I executed over 70 recipes. So a couple of them maybe hit the cutting room floor, but that's a lot of recipes, and that's a lot of editing, testing. And I finished that, edited that part of the book, and then I thought to myself, oh my goodness, like this couldn't be enough. But I still put in 40 devotionals, which are just like encouraging writings with scripture and all of that. And that was like 2 books in one. So I realized what I did there. But I guess I really wanted to make sure that whoever picked up the book wasn't just going to get another vehicle for comparison. I know cookbooks are supposed to be aspirational, and the pictures are beautiful. My team did a great job, but I didn't want someone to leaf through it and be like, wow, I could never make my table look like that. I wish my home looked this way. I wish my food looked this way. She must have such a great life. Whatever we do when we're comparing ourselves, even on social media, so much of that. And I've been very open about that in my community and on my social platforms, that I didn't feel right just plopping that into someone's hands. I just wanted to be able to encourage someone who may be standing at the kitchen sink like I once was, staring out the window, like wondering, am I going to make it to bedtime? Am I going to make it through this week? And I wanted to be able to, I guess, in a sense, grab them and say, you're doing a good job. Like maybe you're not going to be on the cover of Forbes magazine this week, or you don't have 50,000 followers on Instagram, but that doesn't mean what you're doing in your home with your family, your community is any less important.
Exactly. One of the things you mentioned, though, is that you wrote the devotionals and included scripture.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that side, because you're very vocal about your faith.
Sure. Yes, I definitely don't shy away from my faith. I mean, I grew up in church with my family, and that was a great foundation and a great base. But I also went through some things that were pretty dark and pretty heavy. And I was so grateful that in that time, I said to myself, like, for example, when they called me and said, "You have cancer," which is not a phone call anybody wants to get. And I knew in that moment I had a choice. I'm like, I could fall apart, which is totally fine. And there were moments where I did, or I could say, Lord, like, I've seen deep and dark before, and you have been faithful in having me come out the other side. So having this in front of me at the same time writing this book, I got the contract and the diagnosis within like a week.
Yeah, and this
of
is
each
recent.
other. And this is recent, yeah. This is 2023. I think I got diagnosed and went through treatment over the past
Thyroid
like year
cancer.
and a half. Yes, thyroid cancer to be specific. So I think that even in like the toughest, the darkest moments that I had, like God always found a way to show me He was there. Whether it was a person that He sent into my life, or whether it was just, I turned on a podcast and it was the right message for me. And that all seems kind of like, maybe that's kismet, maybe that's just coincidence. But it wasn't. Like I had strength that I shouldn't have had in moments during treatment, and I was still able to push through this book, edit it, still able to do what I needed to do with my family, for my daughter, still able to go to speaking engagements. Like it just, things that didn't make worldly sense that I would have the strength to do, I did. And I just thought I wanted to be really transparent about point A and the in-between, not just point A to B, because it's very easy to post pictures and say, I started here and now it looks like this. And people are like, yeah, but how did you keep your faith in between? So I was committed to showing the in-between, and that's what the scripture and that's what the writings are. They're from those in-between spots where I wasn't sure how things were going to look, when I was frustrated or disappointed or feeling unseen or at the end of my rope, which are common places we all end up at one point or another, and how He took me through that and like held my hand through that. And I just wanted to be able to offer that to others.
Yeah. Well, in this cookbook, you're not just obviously getting recipes, you're getting motivation, inspiration, and you're going to learn a lot.
I hope so. I hope so.
And cooking was your outlet.
It was my outlet. You know, I grew up around a lot of food, Italian American
Yes, of course.
home, so especially in New Jersey, that's just like our way of life. Like that's how we solve every problem. That's like the question of the day. What are you going to eat? What are we eating? Someone gets sick, you're bringing over trays of food. That's just the environment I grew up in, and I always longed for the table. I always looked forward to those Sunday dinners. I appreciate now, so many years later, that my mom put dinner on the table every night. That wasn't easy. You know,
No,
we take
it's
it for
not.
granted as kids, and I see that now having my own family. It takes a lot of intentionality, not perfection, intentionality. And that's my whole point.
Yeah. Well, Dina, congratulations. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on and talking about your book. I love that we went into the spiritual side of it.
I appreciate that so
Yeah,
much. I get to do a lot of food demos. I get to talk about food 24/7, but there is this whole other side of things.
Yeah.
That's the catalyst for the book, and I appreciate that.
It's important, and that's what's going to stand out from the rest of the pack. So where can people buy the book?
So right now, anywhere you would buy a book, whether it's Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Target, I'm really fortunate that we had good distribution with the book. I mean, it's out, so you should see it on shelves, or everybody buys everything online. So, and you can follow along with me at Dish It Girl Dina on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We'll see you back here next week.
Food brings people together. On Cooking with Copel, we combine culinary creativity with good conversation. This spring, we've invited all the candidates for governor to come into the Montclair kitchen, teach me to cook their favorite dish, and give the people of New Jersey a chance to get to know the individuals who would lead our state. It's going to be a fun and exciting way to get really involved in the democratic process. Can't wait to see you there.